Hey everybody, Terrence here from Engadget. We are taking a look at the Samsung Focus S, the latest Mango handset coming out of Sammy. This one's available on AT&T. As you might remember, we reviewed its sort of little brother not too long ago, the Samsung Focus Flash. Now, the Flash is a 3.7-inch device, while the S is a 4.3-inch device. Now, despite that, the Flash is actually quite a bit heavier. It's also thicker, as you can see. The S is a surprisingly light device, primarily thanks to its all-plastic construction. It's actually very similar to the Galaxy S. If you've ever used one, this should seem very familiar to you. Around back, you've got this battery plate here. It's a very flexible plastic, sort of thing where you pry it up with your fingernail and the whole thing bends. It feels very flimsy. It's very bendable. Pulling it off actually makes us pretty nervous every time we do it. You zip it back on like this. Now, taking a quick tour of the hardware, around back where this battery plate is, you've got your 8-megapixel digital camera with a single LED flash, and up front there's a second camera up here. It's a 1.3 megapixel forward-facing shooter for voice chats and such over the newly launched Tango, or hopefully one day Skype. Now, if you turn the device to the side, you'll see over here on the left is the volume rocker. It's got a decent amount of travel. It's not very clicky, but you'll know when you hit it. Over on the right is the power button, and our favorite, the dedicated camera button. It's a dual-stage one, and it's actually much better than the one found on the Focus Flash, which put up a little too much resistance, was a little too recessed, and we found ourselves knocking it out of focus often when trying to take a picture. This guy's a little bit more responsive. He's got a little bit more press to him, but you don't have to press it so hard that you're going to knock it out of focus. As you can see, it's nice and easy. And shutter lag is not bad. It does take a little while to focus, though, so don't expect to be taking off shots that quickly. Now, turning away from the sides, down at the bottom, you've got the all-important micro USB port for syncing and charging, and up top is your 3.5mm headphone jack. Up front is your standard trio of capacitive buttons, back, Windows, and search. And just like on the Flash, we found these to be a little bit too sensitive. We found ourselves brushing the search button kind of accidentally when we were trying to take a picture with the camera. That's where our thumb constantly wanted to go. And hitting that, of course, launches Bing and takes you out of whatever you were doing. Now, up front is probably the highlight of the device. This is a 4.3-inch Super AMOLED Plus display. That means there's no pentile matrix for you haters of shared green subpixels. It does slightly better job at color reproduction, slightly truer whites than regular Super AMOLED display. It does still have the slight blue tinge that you'd see. It's a little tough to make out in this video, but in a dimly lit room, and especially if the brightness is down, it does become a little more apparent. Now, it is only 800 by 480, but you don't really miss those extra pixels that you might get on a device like, say, the Galaxy Nexus, or even a QHD device like the Razer, so much because Metro is seems to be custom made for these sorts of panels. Now, under the hood is a 1.4 gigahertz single-core Snapdragon processor. Now, that might not be the top of the line, it might not sound terribly impressive, but it's more than enough to get Mango going perfectly smoothly. Everything's nice and smooth, scrolls, animations, there's not a hiccup in sight. This despite the fact that it still only has 512 meg of RAM, just like the Flash. Primarily, the only difference between the Focus S and the more budget-friendly Focus Flash is in the size. Inside, they're pretty much the same exact device. Both share the same 1.4 gigahertz processor, the same 512 meg of RAM. Now, this does have 16 gigabyte of storage, while the Flash is stuck with 8. But that hardly accounts for the $150 price disparity. This is, here you're looking, it's all about the display. Unfortunately, the plastic construction leaves something to be desired. It feels a little too light, a little too flimsy. We wouldn't go as far as to say cheap, but the metal back on the Flash felt significantly more like a premium device than the Focus S. That being said, it is hardly a bad phone. You won't regret getting it. We're just not sure if it's worth the $200 asking price. So that's it. This is the Samsung